you so much for watching this broadcast. My name's John Wallace, and I'm the pastor here at Revival House Church. I wanted to take a moment and formally invite you to come and join us here and become a member at Revival House Church. If you're in the local area, we meet every single Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. and every single Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. We would love nothing more than to have you and your entire family come and be a part of what God is doing here. Also, if you live in a place where you are physically not able to come and join us, I would love to invite you to join us online. We are constantly growing and refining our online community, and we would love to have you a part of it. I just want you to know that we love you and we're praying for you, and we hope to see you soon here at Revival House Church.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's see here. We got Shavanica, Mom, on YouTube, Brother Chance. We love you. Praying for you. And Brooke, let me know as soon as we can go lay hands on her. Amaris and Mercy, good morning. Reagan, good morning. The Purple Puffin. Ashley, good morning on YouTube. Bryson on Facebook, good morning. Do me a favor, guys. Number one, if you're watching, hop in the comments. Number two, please, as you can see, we're in jail.
To jail.
Yeah, we're in jail. So we need you to share this broadcast. We are in YouTube jail for the next couple of weeks. That's why we're having to stream off of a different profile altogether. So you can help us overcome the algorithm, and being in YouTube jail can help get the letters out to the church by sharing this and commenting, liking. The more you guys interact, the more that it'll push in the algorithm. Praise the Lord. So I hope you guys are doing well. It was nice watching that intro video as I was welcoming and encouraging everybody to come and join us, and to hear what my voice sounded like waiting on ultrasound results. Let us know, my friend. To hear what my voice sounded like before I became a chain smoker. You guys pray for me. I'm praying for deliverance. I'm just kidding. I don't know what's going on. I woke up very hoarse. It's all the chemtrails. Good morning, Miss Jessica. Love you guys on Facebook. So do me a favor, share this, send it in Messenger. This is going to be really good. We're going to kind of do a breakdown of a video Robert Kiyosaki just released about what's happening financially. So that'll kind of be the main piece. And so that'll be great. So while everybody else is joining, let's go ahead and get started on some media content today. Okay. What's the first video?
So what do you know, or what have you heard about fake eggs? There's rumors that these fake eggs are starting to hit the market, even in major retail stores. I can't confirm any of this to be actually true, but it's said that they're coming out of China. What's happening to our food supply? Check out these clips I gathered.
Walmart eggs are made of plastic.
Made out of fucking plastic. Glue or some shit. I just think I'm finna make some breakfast. This is fucking plastic. The whole top part is plastic. All this is plastic. I just cooked the fucking egg, just plastic.
Keep watching.
Only real is this yellow shit. Even the bottom, this is plastic. This is fucking plastic. Look at this shit. This shit is plastic.
There is something up with the eggs. It goes well beyond just the feed and the yolk being on the outside. Something is up with the eggs.
It's like
This woman boiled them, and they came out this deformed with a internal yolk that's rubbery instead of pasty. Look at this crap.
This are those rubber eggs, honestly. Can you believe that? It's so gross. And these are from England, okay? Has this ever happened to anybody? Where are you?
Is that it? Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so actually some of you guys, Miss Shirley, I don't know if she's on. She sends me she keeps my content strong. She sends me content like 50 times a day. So if you guys see stuff, make sure that you make sure that you send it in to me. You can send it to me on Facebook, Instagram, but basically it's showing you how they can fake eggs, make eggs artificially. Next piece.
So we weren't going to worry about it, but there's a phenomenon going on that we need some explanations about.
This says not
so
all water
we're going to
is the
start
same.
over
What do you
here
think?
on a job site. We're in, I don't know, how cold is it? In the teens? Yeah, all right. Low 20s, teens. And here is frozen water straight out of the back of a truck. Again, frozen straight out of the back of a truck. We had this sitting right beside both of them. Nothing. I thought a little bit about it. So then we moved on. While on the job site, we moved on. This is where I don't understand. That's ice. That's ice. This is a water bottle. Ice. Again, we've got Aquafina. The Aquafina sunk down inside the ice. You can see the hole. That's solid ice. And the Aquafina is not frozen. How is it that none of the Aquafina bottles on this job are frozen, but every other piece of water anywhere is frozen solid? Someone please answer that for us.
Yeah, I've said it many times that every bottle of water is not the same. You can test pH levels. That's why if you're wondering what's the best, Ozarka actually tests very high. I think that my mom, she has one of those tester kits. She tested like Fiji, a bunch of different waters, and Ozarka was the best. If you go to Colorado, I think it's called Arrowhead, but it's pretty much like the equivalent of Ozarka. And it's actually affordable. So if you want super like good quality drinking bottled water, you're like, I don't want to be drinking that. Obviously, it doesn't even freeze. What the heck's in this water? Something's not right. Get Ozarka. If you're hopping on, I'd love to hear from you in the comments and share this. Next.
People always negotiate down their medical bills, and you can too, as long as you know the right questions to ask. All right, your total.
Ashley, so just notice how I said Ozarka, not Dr. Pepper. Okay. Continue.
For having a baby is $20,000. $20,000 for having a
pause
baby.
This. Start it over. I thought this was interesting. This is just beneficial. Rich people always negotiate down their medical bills. So if anybody ever finds themselves in this situation, they may just remember this. Refer back to this video. Go ahead. This is
People
really
always
cool.
negotiate down their medical bills, and you can too, as long as you know the right questions to ask. All right, your total bill for having a baby is $20,000. $20,000 for having a baby? Can I get an itemized bill? Why ask for this? That's why upwards of 80% of medical bills contain errors. There you go. Thanks, but it looks like you double charged me for Tylenol and also billed me for a couple of procedures I never received. Oops, let me fix that, and your new total will be $10,000. Thanks, but I also see that you charged me $1,000 for an ultrasound, but the average cost is only $400. The way that you use this site is you type in the name of the procedure.
So you can go to fairhealthconsumer.org, and you can basically type in the procedure and your location, and it'll give you the average price of that procedure to make sure that you're not being overcharged. Go ahead.
How much you were charged, and the location. It then spits out the average cost of that procedure, which you can then use to negotiate down your bill. For best results, I recommend sending screenshots via email to the billing department management team. Hold on, it looks like I just got an email from my manager. Oh, looks like we have a few things on your bill that we overcharge you for. Let me just fix that. Okay, your new total now will be $5,000. Thanks for making those corrections. If I paid in full today, what kind of discount do you offer? And for reference, the paid in full discount is usually 10 to 30% off your total bill. We can do 30% off if you pay in full, so if you did that, your new total would be $3,500. By the way, you sure knew all the right questions to ask. Where did you learn this?
So obviously,
follow
this
Sam
is
for all
just
the ways to make and save money.
Took a $20,000 bill, got it down to $3,500. Pretty awesome. Good morning, Kenda. Good to see you. Good morning, Aunt Kim on Facebook. Love you guys. If you're hopping on, jump in the comments. Love to hear from you and share this. Next.
Yo, you want some prayer?
Can I pray for you real quick?
I'll pray for you right now.
You ever heard of the gospel?
It's the good news.
I got a large Bible.
I got a kid's Bible.
I got a...
Start it over and keep it paused. When Christianity is illegal, right? This is just, I saw Frank post this and I had to share this. This was awesome. Go ahead.
Yo, you want some prayer?
Can I pray for you real quick?
I'll pray for you right now.
You ever heard of the gospel?
It's the good news.
I got a large Bible.
I got a kid's Bible.
I got a medium Bible.
I got a pocket Bible.
I got that Larry Boy plush toy.
I got boarding passes from a flight to Israel.
I got water from the River Jordan.
I'm not a dope dealer. I'm a hope dealer.
I'm not a dope dealer. I'm a hope dealer. I love that, man. That's awesome. That might be me and Bryson pretty soon. Next.
Do not leave the airport if you
Chance.
ever get bumped from a
Everybody
flight.
else.
Excuse me, sir. Did you just bump me from my flight? So
Pause
sorry.
it. Hold
we
on. Go back
overbooked the
over.
flight.
Start it over. This is the same dude giving you another hack, but when it comes to flying. He says, do not leave the airport if they don't get you on your flight. So, Mom, if you're watching, make sure you take notes for Dad because they've misplaced him so many times. Watch this.
Do not leave the airport if you ever get bumped from a flight. Excuse me, sir. Did you just bump me from my flight? So sorry. We overbooked the flight, and to our surprise, everyone showed up. So how will I get to my destination? Yes, I'm already on top of it. I booked you a flight that leaves in just 3 hours. Okay, I guess. No, it's not okay. If this ever happens to you, make sure to do this. Google these keywords, bumped from flight compensation, and click that first link. That'll take you to the official website of the U.S. Department of Transportation, and then scroll down until you reach this table. This is what you'll use to calculate how much the airline owes you in compensation. So since I was bumped from my flight and then the next flight they put me on was 3 hours later, they owed me 400% my one-way fare, or since I paid $300, they owed me $1,200 in cash compensation. Now here's a critical part. Do not leave the airport. The airline is required to pay you compensation the same day that the bumping incident happened. Oh, and also that flight that they rebooked you on, you are not required to pay any additional funds to pay for that flight. It's all true, but who's helping you save all this money? I just follow Sam for all the ways to make and save money.
So 3-hour delay, he said, according to the Department of Transportation, they owed him $400 of what he paid, and that they have to pay cash compensation the day of the incident. Hey, what's up, Shawnita on YouTube? Love you. Very interesting, man. That's very interesting. Next video.
The president used his radio address yesterday and tomorrow in the Rose Garden to talk about a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage.
How Biden felt about gay marriage in America in 2006. Go ahead.
The president used his radio address yesterday and tomorrow in the Rose Garden to talk about a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage.
You know, think about this. The world's going to Hades in a handbasket. We are desperately concerned about the circumstance relating to avian flu. We don't have enough vaccines. We don't have enough police officers. And we're going to debate the next 3 weeks, I'm told, gay marriage, a flag amendment, and God only knows what else. I can't believe the American people can't see through this. We already have a law, the Defense of Marriage Act, where we've all voted, not where I voted and others said, look, marriage is between a man and a woman, and states must respect that. Nobody's violated that law. There's been no challenge to that law. Why do we need a constitutional amendment? Marriage is between a man and a woman. What's the game going on here?
Yep, very interesting. So, shed some light on the subject. Next. He could talk correctly. I actually believe that guy is not the same guy. I thought that the real Joe Biden possibly died, and they have some other person in office that's not him. I'm telling you guys, I've seen. Man, I miss you guys. It's good to hear from you, Shawnita. Can't wait to visit with y'all next time.
My 84-year-old mother called me up and said, "Paul, I have something very."
Anyways, I was saying about Joe Biden. We've played it on here, but they have pictures of one guy who has like. Have you ever seen somebody that has an ear that's attached? They don't have like an earlobe. Their ear just goes straight to their face. And then, so there was like one clip of Joe Biden where he had like his ear was absolutely attached to no earlobe. And then another where he had an earlobe. So they were completely two different people. 100%. Those aren't the same people, in my opinion. Biden, 2006, marriage is a man and a woman. That's right. Go ahead.
Serious to talk to you about, but you're always so busy. It's a terrible thing. I said, "Mom, what's wrong?" And she's a very happy, genuine person. She goes, I'm worried. And my mother's deeply religious, has not seen a doctor since 1968. She said, my right breast is 5 times the size of my left. I have 6 swollen lymph glands the size of walnuts. And her voice started shaking, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I started crying. Why didn't you tell me sooner? We spent a large part of June at the Swedish Breast Cancer Clinic in Seattle. The oncologist examined her. She had a 5.5 centimeter diameter tumor. It metastasized. It went to her sternum. It went to her liver. She had stage 4 breast cancer. The doctor gave her less than 3 months to live and stated it was the second worst case of breast cancer she has seen as a doctor in 20 years of practice. We had the Circle family meeting. Many of you have gone through this. My mom announced that she bought a pine casket, the cheapest one that she could find, because she was going to heaven. But then the doctor said, you know, you're too old to have radiation therapy. You can't have your breast removed. But there's an interesting study on turkey tail mushrooms at Bastyr Medical School. You might want to try taking those. And that's, my mother goes, well, my son's supplying those. So she was put on Taxol and Herceptin, wonderful drugs. And then she started taking 8 turkey tail capsules a day, 4 in the morning and 4 in the evening. And that was in June of 2009. And today, my mother has no detectable tumors.
That's amazing. Do you still have the video of that's a long one, the castor oil? Don't play it, but we do have a video we'll play either this week, next week. But this woman used castor oil and like wraps, and she talked about putting it on your abdomen, on your breast, but how it sinks into your body and can dissolve tumors, and it's very interesting. We're going to play it very soon. Love foraging for mushrooms. Yeah, Jessica is she knows all about the shrooms, right? All right, let's get into the major piece because it's going to be a little bit of a breakdown. Again, I'm no doctor. I don't know, I'm not giving people medical advice, but I am saying that it is crazy that there are other things out there. There's other practices and treatments and different things, natural things. And so let's get into this next piece. Let's do the breaking news.
Hello, Robert Kiyosaki. This is Emergency.
Thank you for joining me today. Okay, I'm just going to commentate. We'll skip around through this. This is Robert Kiyosaki bringing on, I think his name's Andy Scheckman. He's one of the largest gold and silver dealers I know in North America, and what they're talking about, what's happening with currency, what's happening in the economy. So this is something I think everybody should absolutely listen to. So we'll kind of break it down, and I'll add some commentary throughout it. Go ahead.
Podcast number 3. And I want to thank my friend Andy Scheckman for bringing me personally up to speed, because I knew something was going wrong all these years, but I lost the macro. I didn't get the bigger picture of it. So this is the emergency broadcast number 3. Number 1 was Andy's warning about what Janet Yellen, who was the Secretary of Treasury, but she was also the head of the Federal Reserve Bank. So there's a little conflict of interest there. But how she was warning people, saying that Janet Yellen herself, the FDIC, and the Federal Reserve Bank will determine which banks survive and which ones die. So Andy called up. He says, we got to do emergency podcast number 1. Number 2 is, what does it mean when Japan and Mexico want to join the BRICS? And the BRICS stands for
diversify.
So if you've been wondering what he meant by that, that the president of the FDIC basically saying we'll determine which banks survive and which ones don't, stay tuned because he's going to talk about that in just a minute. Go ahead and play.
Death. We finally shot a raccoon, and there was 7 men, 25-year-old men, and 1 we went live. So it was a simulate crashing in Vietnam or the jungles. And then we had to figure out how to survive. So everything is like a little Boy Scout camp. The first day, everybody's happy. We're chugging along. This is easy. This is easy. Day 2 gets a little bit more serious. Then day 3, we're hungry.
Too much. Yeah.
they're going to wonder what happened. So I'll just tell you a quick story. I went to flight school, the
bring on the guest.
tension.
Okay, go to where
Emergency podcast number 3 is be careful for those who are not paying attention.
We're going to fast forward a little bit so we don't have to. This thing's like an hour long. We're not going to listen to an hour. We'll break up into some pieces here for you guys.
Could you give us an overview? Number 1 was Janet Yellen, Secretary of Treasury, also Fed chairman at one time, saying that she, the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and the Federal Reserve Bank would determine which banks live or die. Why did that terrify you? That's number 1.
Well, that terrified me and the people that I've been talking to over the last few weeks to a level that I've never seen before, and myself personally. Let's break it down. First of all, there's roughly 5,000 of these regional banks, and these banks, Robert, are responsible for roughly 70% of all the small business loans in the United States. And the small businesses have traditionally represented anywhere near 40% of GDP in this country. They are the backbone. These are the banks where you walk in and they say, "Hi, Robert, how's your family? How's your dad? How's your mom? How are your kids? I'll see you at the Little League game tonight. How's the new business going?" And they make loans based upon relationships, not upon balance sheets and business plans. They are more of a piece of the community for all of middle America. And the majority of all the small businesses in this country have relied upon these banks because of a relationship. And where a business plan and a balance sheet may not stack up so well with one of the big 5 or 6 commercial banks, it works with the small regional banks. And so what she said was, when being interviewed and in a House subcommittee inquiry, the gentleman, the representative from Oklahoma, said, "Madam Secretary, I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. You just bailed out Signature Bank, and you just bailed out the depositors at Silicon Valley Bank. Now, if one of my constituents in Oklahoma, who has $5 million in a regional bank, goes bankrupt, if the bank goes bankrupt, will that depositor be bailed out and everyone else, all of the banks in Oklahoma?" And she said, "No, sir, they won't be. It will have to be determined by an uber majority," as she termed it, between the FOMC, which is the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, myself, and the president. So in essence, what she was saying is that they will be judge, jury, and executioner. But if you really look at what she's saying, she is basically saying that if you have money in any of the banks that are not systemically too big to fail, then you better get it out, because they will fail and you will be bailed in, and there's nothing that you've been warned. And the question then becomes, which banks are too big to fail? Which banks are systemic? And when you have a small business or your life savings in a place where you thought it was safe.
So just to catch everybody up, to break it down in layman's terms, whenever the whole thing happened with Silicon Valley, the run on the bank happened. Everybody came to get their money out. The bank totally collapsed. They didn't have their money. The government came, bailed them out. The FDIC was only supposed to insure up to $200,000. The average person in Silicon Valley had these were like tech companies and stuff. So basically, with all of this stuff that's going on with China, with Vladimir Putin, with the digital currency, the Chinese yuan, there's all these things happening economically. The secretary basically said, and I think he said, "Madam Secretary." I thought it was in past videos. They said that she was the president of the FDIC. But basically, long story short is, somebody asked a question in a press conference. Okay, you guys bailed out Silicon Valley. You bailed out another big bank. What happens to like our little bank, right? We live in Huntington, Texas. We do banking with UBank and American State Bank, little local banks with mom and pop, normal, middle class, blue collar type people. What happens if a run on that bank happens? And that bank fails? Are you going to bail them out the same way that you bailed out Silicon Valley? And she point blank said no. In order for a bank to be backed and bailed out, in order for people's money to be backed, if a bank totally goes under, who has over $200,000, basically, she said it'll have to be approved by the Federal Reserve. It'll have to be approved by the FDIC. It'll have to be approved by me. It'll have to be approved by the president. And essentially, we're only going to back the banks that are too big to fail. The ones that we look in society like Wells Fargo or JP Morgan, I mean, hypothetically, the ones that played too big of a part that we can't afford for them to fail. So what that caused was this frenzy of, if your money's in these smaller banks, basically what she was saying was pull it out because there's no guarantee. That just keeps you up to date. Go ahead. Continue to play.
And you never speculated to begin with. What's going to happen? Are you going to risk that to chance? And so she's lit a fuse under literally 5,000 banks in this country that have been the cornerstone of the small businesses and of middle America, forcing everyone into a handful of very large commercial banks. And it's a very, very frightening situation for most of these people to have to come to grips with either staying with the relationships they have and hoping for the best, while not really preparing for the worst, or yanking their money out and moving it into one of the large commercial banks, which she's telling us will not fail. We will backstop the too big to fail banks. And in essence, she's creating socialized banking, putting everyone into.
Yeah, and that's actually what ends up happening, is that if everybody starts yanking their money out to put it in a, what did he say, a central bank? Is that centralized bank? Basically that's called a run. When everybody comes at one time and starts pulling their money out, that's what causes a bank to fail and to go under. So that's essentially what would happen. Go ahead.
Just a handful of very, very large banks.
I'm glad you said that. That's this book here, the Communist Manifesto, Centralized Banking, that they control the whole economy. It's run by the academic elite, and you and I are screwed. So that's number one. It's emergency podcast number one. Please understand that. Question is your money safe in a bank, or is it going to be stolen by the bank? It's called a bail-in.
Right, correct.
So,
and I'll tell you, in the last 2 weeks, I have never experienced the level of anxiety and fear that I am feeling right now. It's almost like a vat of butter poured over my head, and it's just coating me with people's anxiety. The level of fear and anxiety, and it's awful. I mean, people are terrified right now, and they don't know where to turn. Some are turning to precious metals, and others are turning to short-term government treasuries, and others are moving to the big banks. But the amount of money being yanked out of these regional banks, which is going to have a domino effect, is extraordinary. And that's what we talked about in the first podcast.
And podcast number two, which is, I think, the best financial literacy podcast I've ever.
So he said, like, we may not see it. Life is going on as normal right now, but he's saying the amount of money that's being ripped out of these banks, it's going to have a domino effect, and the bubble is going to pop at some point. So I want you guys to hear me. The bubble in America is going to pop at some point. It's the effect that it's having. It's going to come to a head-on collision with reality. He said some people are moving their money to the big banks. Some people are taking their money, putting it in precious metals, gold and silver. Some are doing, I don't know what he said, government treasuries. I don't know anything about that. This was talked about 10 years ago, also about 19. This is nothing new. Yeah, Brother Jacob, but the difference between then and now is that the world reserve currency in 1999 wasn't being changed to the Chinese yuan like it is now. We were still operating under the petrodollar. So it is different. But I appreciate your input. So go ahead, keep playing. And then let me say this too. Obviously, these guys aren't speaking from a biblical Christian standpoint. We don't have a spirit of fear, and we're not giving into anxiety. So yes, Tristan, this was emergency broadcast number 3. Go ahead and continue.
Anything. And it's about what Japan and Mexico, if and when they join the BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And the reason I think that's probably the best I've ever done so far with Andy was his financial literacy. Do you speak the language of the banks? And that's the most important thing right now. Do you speak the same language the banks are speaking? So what was financial emergency podcast number 2? What's the significance of Japan and Mexico contemplating or already joining the BRICS?
And so Mexico has formally applied. The rumor is Japan, Australia, and New Zealand are contemplating. If I had to sum it up, Robert, I guess I would say something to the extent that what it really symbolizes is that the United States and their actions have done more to destroy itself, in the past few years than any external enemy could have ever done, because we weaponize our source of power, which is the US dollar. And we have driven most of the world away from it as a result. And the majority.
So what it means by we've weaponized our source of power, which is the US dollar, which basically, because the world trades with the US dollar, right? It's the world reserve currency. If Russia wants to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, the currency that's used is the US dollar. So the US has had all the power for all of these years since, I don't know if it was the 70s, and they've acted like bullies. You know, a country doesn't want to play by our games. What do? We sanction them. Okay, fine. We're not going to let you deal in our currency. And then kicks that country out from being able to trade on the global market, right? Well, now the BRICS nations, it stands for Brazil, Russia, BRI. What was the I? Iran? Huh? Iraq, Iran. BRIC. What was the C? China, and then the S. Saudi Arabia. That may be. Let's look it up. I don't want to butcher the BRICS. BRICS. It stands for Brazil, Russia, India. Yeah, no. Iran and Saudi Arabia are new. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, right? They had this alliance. Well, now Mexico, now Japan, now he's saying Australia, now New Zealand, now Saudi Arabia, which is the oil, where we get our oil from, Iran. They're all joining this and basically saying, hey, we're going to start doing, number one, we're going to start doing business in the Chinese yuan, not the American dollar anymore. We're kicking America out. If they want to do business and play at our table, they're going to do it in the Chinese yuan. And then also I've heard speculation of them opening it up to every currency, where like Mexico, you can buy oil from Saudi Arabia with the peso. Pakistan, you can buy oil with the rupee. And if that happens, guys, I'm telling you, it just economically everything's going to look completely different. But anyways, that's what's happening is these nations are said, we're tired of being bullied by you, so we're building a table without America. That's what's happening right now. Go ahead.
Of the world's populations reside in the areas that comprise the BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Belt Road Initiative, and the Eurasian Economic Union. This growing group of people that are rallying together against this type of hegemony, this type of, as you called it last time, bullying, and the perception of hypocrisy. And they are rallying away from the West. And really that's what it talks about, the ramifications of what really does that mean if we lose the Petro Reserve status. And that's kind of what number 2 and number 3 talk about. Number 2 was it's happening. And I guess today we would talk about what happens when it does happen and what is it that is happening.
So please listen to emergency podcast number 2, because you'll learn some languaging there. There's a lot to learn, we didn't go over this, but Triffin's dilemma and Gresham's laws and all this stuff. America has been violating all of these laws of money for all these years. And the world says we've had enough of this. So they're joining the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And what Andy's pointing out, that means 70% of the world's population that used to use the dollar are going to take this and say, we don't want it anymore. And so there's going to be quadrillions of dollars coming back
to America.
And the ramifications of that are possibly, and I hope it doesn't happen, but it's called hyperinflation. that this thing goes to trash. This becomes toilet paper, this little dollar here, because there's so much of it out there. And when 70% of the world's population says, we're not going to use this anymore, aloha, what does that mean to the world? Which brings up number 3. And it's the Wile E. Coyote moment. And again, I'm not worried about you guys who listen to 1, 2, and now 3. But what about the person who's fat, dumb, and happy?
Can you pause it real quick? Let me just read something out of you out of Revelation 6:6. So essentially, he's saying the American dollar comes back. It'll cause hyperinflation. What that means is our dollar becomes so valueless that it's like, in order to buy, hey, I'm in jail still. In order to buy a loaf of bread, it instead of it costing one of these dollars because it's lost so much value, it cost 100 of these dollars. In Revelation 6:6, that was actually prophesied. That's one of the markers of the end times, as it says. And I heard a voice from among the 4 living beings say, a loaf of bread or 3 loaves of barley will cost a day's pay, and don't waste the olive oil and wine. So the Bible actually prophesied that obviously we're not in the 7-year tribulation, anything like that, but during that time, that literally a loaf of bread will cost a day's wage. What's a day's wage? Let's just look that up. Day's wage. What is the average day's wage? So like $14 an hour. I mean, what is minimum wage right now? Minimum wage $7.25 still. Holy cow! Seriously. Let's just say $7.25. $7.25 times 8 hours. That means that if you just, obviously for speculation here, a loaf of bread, Revelation 6:6, would cost $58 to buy a loaf of bread. Yeah, close. Jacob said about $75 a day. Yeah, it could vary. So even the Bible prophesied during this time, right? Even in Revelation 13, the Antichrist, he will require everyone, small or great, rich or poor, to be given a mark on their right hand or forehead. He said no one can buy, sell, or trade without that mark. So although we're not in the 7-year tribulation, you see the stage being set right now in order for all of these things that were written thousands of years ago to be prophetically fulfilled. So back to the video.
And things, oh, don't worry. The Fed's got our back. The economy is the best. We'll be fine. You guys are just, you're Chicken Little, saying the sky is falling. It's not falling. It's going to be fine. What happens when your neighbor comes knocking on your door because their kids are starving? Mm-hmm. You think they're going to be wanting your food too and your money? And that's why I told the story of the U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. Navy throwing us out in the woods. On day 3, we went primal. That little raccoon, I still remember it, Andy. There was 7 men, 25-year-old men. You know how much we can eat at 25. And this little raccoon was smaller than a chicken. And I could hear myself growling. You know how much I want that piece. You can't have that piece. You can't.
So and then there was in the beginning of this podcast, because we're skipping around on some things, he told a story of how when he was being trained in the Marines, they dropped him off in the jungle, and he was like with no food, no water, and they were like, day number 1, oh man, this is easy. Day number 2, by day number 3, he said they were so famished and starving that they just totally lost like all humanity. They were willing to kill, basically. And he said he saw this little raccoon, and he was like literally growling at it like an animal. And his whole point is 3 days of people having no food and being cut off from all substance. Basically, you're going to see people go into a total primal state. And so that's just some context what he's saying here. Go ahead.
Another group of 7 men came. They said, you kidding? No, leave us alone. So there was another group coming in. And so they were so desperate, this other group of 7, we sold them the bones. I still remember that. I said, that's a pretty good deal. We got $20 for these bones here. They were chewing away on it. The point is, we're only 3 days away from primal. And what happens when your neighbor comes to visit you because their kids are starving?
3 days from now, something's going to happen. He's saying,
so that's the Wile E. Coyote moment.
Once you lose food supply, people are only within 3 days. They're going to start raiding, turning into violence. It's happening now in small way in America. Yeah, it's true. Go ahead. Huh? Tonio can go. I know I can go at least 21 days without food. Tonio can go at least 30 days without food. Anyways, go ahead.
So what do you see possibly happen? Well, can we show this clip here? Well, you want to talk about what the possibility is, or how far away are we from the Wile E. Coyote moment?
Right, and there have been a lot of things that are happening, and we'll talk about this one first. And this is the president of Kenya, who, innocently enough made a deal with Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, both of which have been our allies, right? Both of which are joining the BRICS nations and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They're all on the Belt Road Initiative. So in and of itself, Kenya saying to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates that we will buy your oil from now on with Kenyan shillings instead of US dollars, in and of itself is not as big of a deal. I talk about the game of Jenga where you pull pieces out and finally the whole thing tips over. But what was very interesting about what he said was this piece where in the first 30 seconds, more or less what he says is, let me give you all some advice who hold US dollars. The term he uses is you should go to the nurses. Now, I guess there's a little bit of translation there that in terms of his command of the English language, but he said in the next few weeks, this market will be very different. In essence, he's intimating that some event, whatever that event may be, is going to happen in the next few weeks that will affect the dollar, that those holding dollars should do what they need to do right now, he says, because in the next few weeks, this market will be very different. And I found it to be rather concerning on a broader sense. Again, each and every one of the things that I have talked about for the last 3 years, really screaming to the public in every video I've done since 2020, every one of them, the central theme has been about the loss of the petro standard, the growing chorus of countries, starting with the Belt Road Initiative and ending with the BRICS nations and everything in between.
Wait. And what Andy's saying is that in 1971, Nixon took this off the gold standard. They had to back it up with something. So 74, Nixon and his protege Kissinger, they went to Saudi Arabia, says, if you make this the petrodollar, so they went from a gold dollar to a petrodollar. And so they gave the dollar immense power throughout the world because everybody had to take this stuff here. And so what happened when China enters the scene and all this stuff is going on, what Andy's talking about, this is going to come back on us now.
That's correct.
Can we show this video of this guy? Then you can interpret, because I watched it twice. I didn't quite get it. So you can explain it better than I can. So let's
wait. Hold on. Let him start it and then pause it.
Let's show this little video of Mr. Bhutto or something from Kenya saying that we're not going to trade in this anymore. This is aloha.
Yeah, let them come on the screen.
For the people.
So this is cool. This is broadcast inception. So you're watching a broadcast as we're playing another broadcast. But on that broadcast, they played a clip from another person's broadcast. So this is like broadcast inception. Anyways, we actually played this clip on this broadcast several days ago. This was the president of Kenya. This is the advice that he's giving to his people about the American dollar. Go ahead.
People who work numbers, I am giving you free advice that those of you who are holding dollars, you surely might go into losses. You better do what you must do, because this market is going to be different in a couple of weeks. And secondly, we, through the central bank, we are having conversations to reinstate the interbank exchange market that has since not worked. And I am happy that the players in that sector, including our banks, are coming forward and they are participating, and they are working with the central bank so that we can again take charge of our market and that it is not allowed to be distorted.
So, okay. So
wait, what was he saying there, Andy?
So what he was basically saying is you need to get out of dollars and you need to do it quickly. And that if you don't, the whole market is changing and you need to go see a nurse if not. And what he was basically saying is get out of dollars. And when you see that in conjunction with purchasing oil from the UAE and from Saudi Arabia in Kenyan shillings instead of dollars, this is a very, very ominous sign. Amongst a few other things that have happened since we've had our last conversation that I think are very important and must be spoken about, and how it all affects this moment when the world snaps their fingers and no longer takes dollars for oil. The ramifications of that are extraordinary and will be very similar to what you spoke about at the beginning of this conversation, where, if the dollar collapses and all those dollars come flooding home and interest rates spike to the moon, everything in this country changes in the blink of an eye. Not only are the three pillars of wealth, stocks, bonds, and real estate, inversely correlated to a rise in interest rates, and we're not talking about a 25 or 50 basis point interest rate hike. And you can see just raising interest rates to 4.5% has already almost broke the entire world financial banking system. But I'm talking the world dumping dollars globally because they no longer need to hold it to own oil. The ramifications of that and hyperinflation as those dollars come flooding home, because as you mentioned, every country's had to own dollars since '74 in order to buy oil. It's created this synthetic demand. The ramifications of dollars being globally dumped simultaneously in favor of another settlement currency for oil it's terrifying. Because everything that makes people feel wealthy in this country is inversely correlated to that moment. And when the dollar dies, along with stocks, bonds, and real estate, what does that mean? What does that mean in the analogy of 7 hungry Marines eating a raccoon when the supply chains are completely broken, the dollar is worthless, the grocery stores are empty, people have no cash, they're ill-prepared for what is coming. So yes, they will come knocking. And as in my mind's eye, I guess I would say when people have nothing to lose, they lose it. And that's the kind of environment that I would envision, God forbid, that we're not so really far away from when you look at the pieces that are being put into place. I'd like to mention one in particular. And it's really being overlooked, in my opinion, by the media, and I don't quite understand it. And this is the peace deal that has been brokered, by the only adult in the room, and that has been China, brokering a peace deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran, two mortal enemies.
And while that was happening, it was in the news, not China brokering a peace deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia and then going over and bailing out Russia. Because that's what happened. Because of the war in Ukraine, Russia's economy had taken a dip. China came over, offered financial relief. Nobody knows anything that's going on because the only thing that they're covering, unless you listen to like Tucker Carlson or some independent journalist, is what? The Trump indictment, which is absolutely stupid. And they're sitting here keeping everybody distracted, keeping everybody looking over here while the most important thing is happening right over here and nobody knows about it. That's why we're doing what we're doing right now. Go ahead.
And also, isn't Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq also?
Well, Iran and Iraq, they've also brokered a peace deal between Iran and Iraq where they've now built a railway between the two countries. Yeah. They are mending fences. But in terms of what happened in Saudi Arabia, here you got Sunni and Shiite. They've been at each other's throats for centuries. And it is a reconciliation between the two countries brokered by China, and the two countries are now reestablishing diplomatic ties and opening embassies in each other's country.
And then also what happened was when Biden went to Saudi Arabia, they didn't even talk to him. Because why would they talk to him? And he's a woke guy. He says we're gonna put oil out of business. Well, why am I talk to Biden? Do you know what I mean? Right. But when Xi goes in, the guy ahead of China, he gets a royal welcome because he's going to buy oil from Saudi Arabia. And it was Biden who cut down the Keystone XL pipeline that sent oil from $30 a barrel to $130 a barrel, which destroys the middle class because they can't afford, they got to choose between putting gas in the car or eating. And that's why I used the example of sitting there with this one little raccoon. And at least we had something. But when the other 7 guys came across and they were starving also, you have not lived and seen desperation like that. And I'm saying to all of you, if your kids are starving, what would you do?
Go ahead, that's fine.
60% of human population in and of itself are pretty darn close to it. The Eurasian Economic Union and the BRICS, all of them together are north of 80% of human population who are not going green. And you add the other countries, 60 of them more, including Mexico, and including perhaps Japan, and including perhaps Australia and New Zealand. Those aren't even part of the 60 that are applying or have expressed interest into applying. You're dealing with the majority of human population who isn't going green. And what China is doing is around cooperation, upon reconciliation. They're going into countries like South America. They're going into Africa. They're going into the Arab states, and they are building infrastructure. They're building bridges. They're building roads. They're building ports. They're building oil refineries.
But what Andy is saying, with fake money. Correct. You see, when they spell quantitative easing, that's called counterfeiting money. So all the U.S. had to do was print this stuff, and you could steal a nation's wealth.
Sorry, guys, we're trying to cut through some of the stuff to get to.
You better go to a hospital now.
That's exactly what I was saying. And
anyway, I'm going to get to a solution right now. And again, I would strongly suggest people watch Emergency Podcast number 1. I think number 2 is the most for financial literacy. Do you speak the language of the banks? And then number 3 is that it's the people who are not watching these 3 videos that you have to worry about. And that's why I sit at my desk with my little Dirty Harry pistol here, and because I'm a Marine. I've been in my own homes. I've had people break in Hawaii. And when people are desperate people do desperate things.
They do.
And we're getting there now.
Now, I can't confirm this, but I'd like to mention, I made a comment the other day. I said, look, part of this happening is because the U.S., in essence, has stole the exchange reserves of Iraq, Iran, Venezuela, Afghanistan, and Russia to the tune of trillions of dollars, right, through sanctions and whatnot and war. And someone said to me, by the way, the president of Venezuela just said the exact same thing that the president of Kenya said. Now, I can't confirm it, but I was just told this today or yesterday, last evening, that happened, that the Venezuelan president said that at the exact same time. And so this is the rallying cry. I would like to bring up one other thing that's very interesting. I was reading a report by gold report by the Toronto.
So apparently he's saying the president of Venezuela came out and said the same thing that the president of Kenya said. If you're holding American dollars, dump it, because in the next few weeks, you're going to suffer great losses if you don't. Go ahead.
Dominion Bank, a TD Bank, a Western-friendly bank, and they talked about gold going up to $2,000. And it was very interesting to me that the opening says the West's loss of control over commodity pricing is a slow-burning theme with significant implications for pricing, inflation, currencies, politics over the coming decade. You have a Western bank, one of the largest banks in Canada, saying that the West is losing control over the ability to suppress the gold and silver market and other commodities. And this is why you are seeing the smart money bleed dry all of the exchanges of the world of their commodities, not just gold and silver, zinc and aluminum and all the soft and hard goods that are disappearing off the COMEX and the London Metals Exchange. They are front running what they see coming. So yeah, I'd love to talk about the solution. I think that's a great idea.
He's going to get into.
So that's why. Would you explain what Miles Franklin does? And but to be perfect for disclosure, I do buy from Andy Sheckman. I make no commissions. I don't get.
So basically, I'm not going to go. I don't know all the intricacies of this, but what they're saying is America manipulates the precious metals market, and that's true. America controls, like, oh, we don't want silver. Like, we don't want silver to go too high, to be too valuable. So they do things to manipulate that market. They keep it more, the price of it lower, where it's not inflated very high. Canada, one of the largest banks in the West, came out and said that America is losing its ability. With all this going on, America is losing its ability to manipulate those markets. So when they lose their ability to manipulate those markets, you'll see gold and silver go to the prices that people have been saying for years that this is where it's going to go. And when that happens, silver, instead of being like today, it was 24 something. Gold was over 2,000. Basically, when that happens, silver could go to like $500 an ounce versus $24 an ounce. So if you don't have any of it, that's going to really suck for you. But if you do have some of it, it's going to be extremely, it's going to be amazing. If you had 200 ounces of silver and that went to $500 an ounce, you have $100,000 right there. What would let's see, just at spot price, $24 times 200. So, you buy 200 ounces at spot price, that's $4,800. It goes to that's a $4,800, which obviously you're going to pay more than that when it comes adding premiums. But anyways, so that's what he's saying. So he's saying now all these countries, they see that America is losing its ability to manipulate the market. And that's why the London Exchange, all these places that have gold and silver, they're being running dry because other countries are foreseeing this and they're buying it up. China is buying it up. Other places buying it up. And so basically because they can foresee that it's going to be inflated very high. Go ahead.
I am a consumer just wait because I like the education I get along with the products I buy. So this here is a solar nice stuff here. So what's going to come back is a tidal wave of this toilet paper upon America. And this little $35 coin here, I don't like to make predictions, but I'd rather have this than this here. And it's really tough to get people to say, no, I'd rather have toilet paper. It makes no sense to me. So please explain what Miles Franklin does. And I am, for full disclosure, I am a customer of Andy, but I am a customer of him because I like what he teaches me about money.
You're very kind. And what you just said, that and our U.S. Mint accreditation as one of 27 off bill, $7, $8, $9 more than everything else is wholly inefficient. So you look at the 6 mints, one is on allocation, one is massively back-ordered months, and the other is running at 50% capacity. That leaves 3 of the 6 mints all across the Atlantic, and we're all fighting for the same small pool of gold and silver to protect ourselves from what's coming. So yes, we can deliver, and we've always been able to. And I bought everything that wasn't nailed down over the past, really since Thanksgiving, everything, deep into my line of credit, buy it all, and it's disappearing. And we did more business in the past 14 days than I have done in years before. Our last year was our biggest.
So he goes on to basically say that he's doing more business, like he's done more business in the last 14 days than 15% of what he brought in the entire year last year. And he does, guys, I'm not talking like he owns a pawn shop. He does like billions of dollars in gold and silver. And that's how much people are buying. And he was saying, just now I'll summarize it for you, that basically because of the huge demand that he's having a hard time getting it from his suppliers. In fact, one of his suppliers from, I think you said the Canadian Mint, basically by time it came for them to deliver, they were only able to give him less than half of what his delivery was supposed to be. And he's this huge gold supplier in the United States of America. So it just tells you that it is being bought up right now. Go ahead.
Here we did 15% of last year's volume in the last 2 weeks, and people are terrified. And there's a very strong motivation when you're scared. And the interesting thing, Robert, in wrapping all this up to what you said and how you said it was really cool, is that the people who understand it are like the starving Marines freaking out for the little bit of gold and silver that there is. Get my money out of the bank. The people who haven't figured it out yet, when this hits, when this moment happens of global de-dollarization, when the banking crisis accelerates, like we talked about in number one, whatever the fuse that is lit that blows the whole thing, there's so many people that are ill prepared for what's coming, whether it be financially, spiritually, emotionally, any of it.
Positive.
They're just not prepared.
I love that, because I'll tell you, the essence of what we are trying to do is to equip people in every one of those areas, financially, spiritually, and emotionally. Go ahead.
And I think that's when things get really frightening. When you talk about insurrection, when you talk about having to sit in your bedroom with a gun on your table, these are things that you don't want to think about. But honestly, it's that serious. It truly is. And then you look at all of the things that have happened on the periphery, all of the disruptions with food processing plants and eggs and bird flu and the chickens and everything. It's the perfect storm happening all at once. And I don't want to be an alarmist, but there is nothing wrong with preparing in every way as if a hurricane is coming tomorrow. In fact, that's what Jamie Dimon said. He said a hurricane is coming, not a storm, but a hurricane. And if you prepare as though it is a hurricane, and in the words of Xi Jinping, 100-year hurricane, then I think you will be far better off than just sitting and being reactionary. You must be proactive. And you know what? If you have to donate some food to a food shelf, if you have to give your gold and silver to your children or to a church or to anyone that means anything to you, if you have stockpiled this stuff to protect your family prematurely and it doesn't pan out, who cares? But it could save your life and not only allow you to survive, but maybe even thrive when the dust settles. And there will be opportunities that will blow people's minds when valuations meet an equilibrium with interest rates, valuations in asset prices. And those that haven't been wiped out will be able to then come in and rebuild and take advantage of generational opportunities.
Right. Anyway, so I was at Safeway, and they had 5 cans.
Somebody's asking, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the comments. I'll send it out, but our great sister Shanita is asking, where can we safely buy silver and gold? I'll send you a few websites that are trusted. Bullimax. Let me send it. We'll put it in the chat. So I'll let me see. I'm gonna forward this to Bryson. What do you want me to send this to on Facebook? You? All right. I'm gonna send this to Bryson. He's gonna put it in all the chat. So if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, you'll be able to get it. The link. So that's a good one. Let me see where else. Let me look for a few more here. Oh, what the heck? Was that an accident? He went to type and there was a bullhorn. Sorry, guys. I love you, Jacob. Hop back on with me, man. I'm on every day, Monday through Friday at 10:30. Unless special circumstance. So love to see you. Bullimax.com. Bullion Max, we put that out. That's a good trusted one. I'm trying to find a couple more. I wish my dad was on because we've bought from a few different websites. I will say too, locally, look up, just do some digging, because everybody, Shanita, like you live, I think, are you back in New Mexico? Yeah, also, Shanita, call my dad, because he can give you the name of a few websites and he'll send them to you. But if you're in New Mexico, obviously that's not what I meant. Lovington or Clovis, there's got to be, even in Hobbs area, there's got to be a shop. Like, so I do both. I like to buy online because you can always get it a little cheaper, but I also like to do business locally just to develop relationships with people. If I ever, because here's the thing is, although you can buy online, unless you sell on eBay or something, you're not gonna liquidate your gold and silver online. You're gonna do it local. You're gonna do it through like a gold or silver shop, or even like person to person. And so you want to develop those relationships. And so I would just do some digging and look into different shops. Just Google gold and silver near me, and just start making some phone calls. Because you'll find coin shops or like silver bullion shops. Call them and just ask them, hey, do you guys sell silver rounds? Do you sell gold? Do you buy gold and silver? And when you go in, I'll give you a little bit of advice. Ask for generic. If you want to buy rounds, like, it depends on how much money. If you have a lot of money, which maybe I'll get into that in just a moment. If you have a lot of money, like, that you want to dump, like you say, I've been saving money, just like putting it in dollars for an emergency, whatever. And you say, I don't want to save that in dollars. I'm going to take that which I've already put aside and have been putting aside, and I want to move it into gold and silver. And then if I need it later, I'll just liquidate it at that point. I'll sell some of it off and use what I need when I need it. So if you're going to buy bigger, like, amounts, try to buy like in maybe some bars, 10-ounce bars, 100-ounce bars. If you can afford gold, it's over $2,000 an ounce. So it's more expensive. But if you're going to buy rounds, even in the bars, just ask for generics. Like a 1-ounce round, just ask for generics, not Eagles or Maples or anything special. Generic basically means it's as close as possible to the spot price. And so use that term when you go to buy. Look, ask for generic rounds, see what they have, and buy as much as you can. Go ahead and keep playing.
Tuna for $1. So I went, oh my God, something like that was cheap as.
Frank says check spot price before you go buy. This way you don't overpay. That's right. And it changes day by day. So check the spot price. And also, I'll say this, you want to as well get a few different quotes, because I know even in Lufkin, I can go buy one at like a round at one shop and then walk down the street and buy the same round. Actually, I'll show you. I carry this on me every day. But here's a generic round. This is called a buffalo. There's like a little Indian on it, a buffalo on the back. This is 1 ounce of silver. So I could go to a shop and buy this. Let's say this cost me I literally did this one day. I went and paid $27. This was when it was cheaper at one shop. And I walked down the street and a guy charged me $31, but he ended up giving it to me for $30 for this exact same silver round. So that was $3 more. So obviously it would make more of a financial sense to go to the one, the closer to spot price, which is basically just silver in its raw form. The closer that you can get to spot price, the better. Go ahead and keep playing it for a few more minutes, Bryce.
No, I forgot the price, but I was going, God, this tuna can is pretty good, because tuna is a derivative of diesel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't catch tuna.
Right.
There's one more thing I want to say that you talked about is, we had Credit Suisse go down, and that's a bond failure. But Deutsche Bank is a derivatives failure. Now people, what's the difference between a bond and a derivative? So what happened is, since 2008, they've been dropping interest rates. And then when they raised interest rates, the bonds started to explode.
All right, back to me.
Because
amen. We'll kind of close it on that broadcast. That was pretty much the highlights I wanted to share with you. But he did say something that was interesting. He said, if people aren't prepared, there may come a point where you're having to give some silver off to your church, to your family, to your kids, for people that haven't been prepared. And I don't know, I've been thinking about that as a church. And that's kind of one reason why I've been pushing this and talking about this and getting people prepared. The more people that we have in the church that are prepared, the more people that will be able to help. And that's why we've been covering all aspects, not just financial kind of information and knowledge, but even talking about food and the importance of what's going on in the food, what's going on in with the food that you're eating and what we're buying, and moving everything more in that direction of total self-sustainability. And so, it's important. Make moves. Guys, if it was me, I'm telling you, if I had the option between a house, like a crappier house, I don't know if that's the proper word, like a less nice house on some land versus moving into town and having a really nice house on just a little plot, in my opinion, I would rather have the land because of what you can do with it and the value that it can add in creating self-sustainability and even being outside of, obviously we trust in the Lord, but I'm saying just even from a logical standpoint, if stuff starts breaking out and people are kind of going nuts, you have that sense of security that we're not right in the middle of this, but we have, a place of security. So very interesting. We ended up going a little bit over into that broadcast. Let's share just a couple more media pieces and then we'll let you guys go today. What else we got?
My 84-year-old mother called me.
We play that one.
Nancy Pelosi just gave the 2-minute warning. If you follow financial news, you know that Nancy Pelosi just sold off a whole ton of stocks for a massive loss. And the only reason I follow her is because she's notorious for insider trade, or more accurately, her husband makes a lot of amazing predictions as to what the stock market is going to do. So somebody with insider information pretty much has just blown the whistle that the stock market is going to crash very soon. Last night I was talking to somebody that gets a lot of their product for their business from overseas, and they usually buy it in bulk, but they're not allowed to buy it in bulk anymore because in the last week, the American dollar has lost so much value on the international market. So for every dollar that you have in your pocket, on the world stage, you've got 80 cents. So before that drops to zero, you might want to go grocery shopping, get gas, and probably a helmet, because shit's going to get crazy.
Sorry about the cuss word, but anyways, listen, I'm not trying to be an alarmist, anything like that. But the first part I really wanted you to see, he said Nancy Pelosi just sounded an alarm. She just sold a bunch of stocks for a massive loss. Why did she take a loss? Why did she sell off a bunch of stocks even at a loss? Well, because she knows that if I don't sell it now, I'm about to lose a lot more. And so, because she's been notorious of using insider information, and she said her husband has been famous for somehow making awesome predictions when it comes to the stock market. And so, anyways, it's just super funny because, he's used insider information with her political office to know what to buy, when to buy, what to do. And right now she's selling everything she has. And so basically he's saying that's her blowing a whistle of what's going on right now. Yeah, Shanita, she said, that's exactly what we're doing. We're out behind my mom's. I think that's a good plan, to be honest with you. Start utilizing that land. I know you guys have already done chickens and stuff in the past, but next.
The notion that children are somehow a burden. What are they interfering with? What have you got to do that's so important? What? You're going to drink 2,000 less 26s of vodka with your idiot friends at the bar. That's your brilliant alternative to growing up. And, I do believe it's very hard for people to grow up if they don't have children. And people hate it when I say that because there are other ways of growing up. But it's very hard. And the reason it's hard is because you are not mature until someone else clearly matters more than you do. And if you aren't narcissistic beyond redemption, that definitely happens to you when you have children. And then you're an adult, even if you're not that good at it. As long as that other person is now something you would die for or something that you would live for, then you're an adult.
I agree. the whole notion, wait till you get married, wait till you're older wait till you're ready to have kids. Yeah, no, definitely. No, I'm sorry. Wait till you're older to get married. Like, go live your life, sleep it up, party it up, drink it up, have all your experiences, and then get married. These are the things that add, number one, the most value to your life. But you're like, oh, I'm going to get to some level of maturity. In reality, responsibility is what makes you mature. And so it's in those times where it's like, well, now I have to put another person in front of myself. That's actually what helps you grow up. So I agree with this. I think is his name Jordan Peterson? I believe that's his name. But anyways, back to me. Guys, I love you so much. Yeah, nice. We're in the jail cell. We're still in YouTube jail for a couple of weeks. I love you guys so much. Before I close the broadcast, I want to give you an opportunity, if you would like, if you see the value in what we're doing, because we come on here, we not only teach the Bible, which we normally do every day. We didn't do that today. We covered this broadcast. But you see the value. You said Christians need to know this stuff. The world needs to know what's going on. It's not being talked about. It's not being taught to people. People aren't prepared. And you see the value in that. I'd like you to pray about, ask the Lord about standing with us financially, whatever that looks like. You could sow a seed. You could partner with us monthly, weekly. I don't know. You ask the Lord, whatever he tells you to do. We just say thank you in advance. Because of many people just like you, we're able to do what we're doing. And we give all glory to God, and we're just thankful that he speaks to people to stand with us and to sow into us and believe in what we're doing. And so if that's you and you'd like to sow, we say thank you in advance. And here's how you can do that. To make it very simple, just go to rhctx.com/give. All the ways available are on that website. Cash App, you can text to give. If you want to send in a check, follow the instructions. You can make it out to Revival House Church. Send it to P.O. Box 1282, Huntington, Texas, 75949. And then also you can give through credit or debit card. If you do that and you want to become a partner with us, whatever the Lord, if he speaks you to do that, after you give through credit or debit, you put that amount in and you give, it'll give you an option to make it reoccurring if that's something you feel led in your spirit to do. And again, guys, we just love you so much, and we thank you in advance for that. And so back to me, I am believing if you would like to stand with us this Monday, we're doing a huge outreach at the Lufkin Skate Ranch. We're going to give, you got that slide? We're going to give first 200 kids free admission and then $5 per person after the first 200. So there will be hundreds of kids at this thing. It's going to be awesome. And we've got permission to literally stand and preach the gospel to all of them, call them to Jesus Christ. We're just believing the Lord to encounter many teenagers in the younger generation. And so I think it's going to cost us $1,000 just to give the admission, 200 kids free admission. And then, we're believing if we're able to do some giveaways. And so I'm believing for about $1,500. If you'd like to sow towards that, you can sow at the same place. Just go to rhctx.com/give. We thank you in advance. I'm going to pray for you. But last but not least, before I do, if you've never given your life to Jesus Christ, never, you say, I've never done that. Or number two, you once served the Lord, but you say, I've walked away from him. Maybe something came in my life. Maybe the devil came in like a Mack truck from hell and a situation blew up and it caused me to wander away from the Lord, but I want to rededicate today. Immediately after this broadcast, I want you to click the link pinned in the description. We've created a video just for you. Watch that video, take a few moments and follow the simple instructions, and we rejoice with you ahead of time. Amen. Let me pray over you today. Father, thank you for these precious people. Thank you that your hand is upon us, that no matter what comes our way, no matter what agenda is thrown and no matter what condition America is thrown into, I thank you, Father, that you'll make a way for us to prosper. That just like Isaac, he sowed in a year of famine, he reaped 100 times when everybody else was without in a time of famine, just like Joseph, that you gave him a dream, you gave him instructions to set provisions ahead, to set provisions aside ahead of time. You gave them instructions in order to thrive, even in a time of hardship. And so I thank you for that. revelation. I thank you for that wisdom. I thank you for that knowledge. I thank you for your hand over our lives. I thank you for the leading and guiding of the Holy Ghost. We give you all praise and honor and glory in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Guys, I love you. I'll see you tomorrow at 10:30.